if you clicked on this video, you probably know what Fourth Wing is, but in case you don't, Fourth Wing is an incredibly popular new adult fantasy novel. It's about dragon riders and it got very popular on TikTok, the app I have yet to download because I'm very particular about my feeds and feeds I cannot customize myself, are feeds I do not enjoy. If you would like to know more about Fourth Wing, I recommend getting it from your local library or Libby. And now for some disclaimers. I understand that Fourth Wing is a very popular series, and if you enjoy it, first I would love to hear why. Second, popular things are popular for a reason, so I know for a fact that this book has to have something good. I just could not for the life of me find it. I'm also of the mindset that every piece of art out there was created by someone who loved it. Making art is difficult and it requires work and attention. Even soulless corporate cash grabs have people who worked on it who loved it. My rant is in no way trying to insult Rebecca Yarros or anyone who enjoys her books. Now, let's get into it, shall we? First chapter, we meet Violet. She's nerdy, she's trained to be a scribe, she's disabled. Kinda, we'll get back to this later. She's also from a prestigious dragon riding family on the side of her mom. Yay, strong female character! And her mom has forced her to apply to be a dragon rider instead of a scribe. It is also implied that she did this after her husband, Violet's father, died, because now Violet's father can intervene. Yay, strong female character! Also, Violet has a sister. I don't care about her. Now, here's one thing that bothered me personally. I like writing. I'm writing a book right now. I am also a history nerd. I understand it is my own personal flaw that I think dragon riding is lame compared to being a scribe. To me, that's like being asked to join the military instead of becoming a historian. I am absolutely siding with Violet here. You would think that would make me relate to Violet, right? So there's this event thing where there's this kind of entrance exam for different tracks. I will note I genuinely don't remember if there were tracks other than Scribe and Dragon Rider. While in line, Violet meets this other girl, Rhiannon. They become friends. I'm immediately suspicious of Rhiannon. To be fair, I'm immediately suspicious of everyone. The dragon riding test is essentially crossing a very dangerous bridge, a parapet. And while crossing, other people are allowed to kill you. This military better have some banging veteran benefits. Now, here's where Violet lost me as a fellow history lover. In a panic from the parapet, Violet tries to calm herself down by reciting some of her old notes. It's a cheap trick to get some exposition mentioned without it feeling too forced. I understand the logic. In an impossibly unfamiliar situation, bring something familiar to calm you down, like a teddy bear or an emotional sport animal. My issue was in how she interacts with her knowledge. Because the way she recalls and connects with historical information is the way I thought history was studied when I was in elementary. Just a bunch of chronological dates and events. There's no real interest, there's no want to connect with the material, to the point where I didn't know she was a history lover until I looked up a summary of this novel. In a situation like this, recalling some historical figure who did something similar to what you're going through can be surprisingly calming. Like Yi Shun-shin, a Korean war hero who during his first military exam, he fell from his horse, broke his leg, placed 2 branches on either side so he could stand up, got back into his horse and finished the damn exam. And I know this is me asking Yarros to put more world building into her book, which might be something she's not interested in, and I'm not saying she has to do that, but Violet did not feel like a history nerd to me. She made me feel like a nerd. Oh my god, I can't believe I just said that. I sound like loser nerds from an early 2000s show. Anyway, since Violet is from an important family, she has something of a target on her back, some of which is because her mom killed the parents of these other kids because they were rebels or something like that, and others because I don't really remember. There's this guy who decides he doesn't like that Violet is breathing and while crossing the bridge keeps harassing her and tries to push her off. Violet survives, finishes the test, there's a standoff between the two about something about the rules, which Violet memorized because of course you did. Next, Violet meets with her childhood friend, a second year, who has a dragon. He helps her fix her leg because, oh right, Violet has a connective tissue disorder, which means she bruises, dislocates joints and breaks bones easily. And I thought that was so cool. I didn't know Violet was disabled and I was so happy to see a book that was this popular have some disability representation. We'll get back to that in a minute, but first, Dane tries to help Violet get into the scribe track, but Violet refuses profusely. I did not understand what this girl was on about.
Damn it, woman, pull yourself together! Have some pride, for the love of God!
The given explanation was that her mother was forcing her to be a dragon rider, and that if she found a way to get into the scribe section, her mother would send her right back. And I get it, she's threatening the girl, but when you repeat constantly that dragon riding is dangerous and there's plenty of trainees that die every day, the risk just doesn't seem that big. Violet, girlie, I think your chances of staying alive are higher by risking your mom's wrath, not gonna lie, babe. Another explanation is that Violet has this complex of being seen as weak. Now, I don't know if this is a character flaw or a feminist statement. I hope it's a character flaw because a disabled person realizing that they have nothing to prove to the world and that they don't owe their strength to anyone is nice. Violet fighting Dane to not go back to the scribe track because he thinks she's weak and we the audience are supposed to agree with her is dumb. Violet wanted to be a scribe. A friend is giving her a chance to do so. She wasn't able to go earlier because she was being watched. Bestie, this is your ticket to freedom! And also just a quick note, this is something that has been bothering me about some of the female characters that are in like modern novels, that people are so much more focused into making them like strong female characters, not strong female characters. At this point, I was very exasperated with Violet. I could not relate to her, and the few points I thought made her interesting were twisted into something I just couldn't get behind. But a friend was who convinced me to read this book, and I really wanted to go back to her like, yeah, I did enjoy it. I agree it's not the best book in the world, but I like X, Y, and Z, and we could talk about it. So I kept reading. The next part passed in a blur, partly because I was listening to this book on an audiobook, and I had to speed up the damn thing. I really wanted to get to the good part, whatever the f*** that was hiding. There's some sparring that Violet survives, either because of her dragon-scaled corset or because she poisons her opponents. You would think coating her daggers with poison would be useful in a non-suspicious way, but my girl is poisoning them the food way. I don't know either. In one of her fights, her opponent dips out too early, and so Satan replaces them. Satan is the son of one of the people Violet's mom captured and executed. He's been popping out throughout the story, and Violet has a crush on him, but also hates him. Violet and Satan fight, Satan wins. There's some stuff about Violet finding out Satan and other children of rebels have been sneaking out in the night, and about like them keeping each other's secrets. But I just... listen. I like the enemies to lovers trope. I think it's fun and it can explore interesting dynamics. But it just... enemies to lovers doesn't work when there's a clear power dynamic. Satan is a third year and there's a lot of hierarchical structures in this book. He also has a lot of power over other students. He has a goddamn dragon. And also, he's a and I don't like him. I don't want more of him in the book. He can go rot with the guy that tried to push Violet off the parapet. In fact, I would respect if Violet and Bridge Guy won the Deku and Katsuki route. Satan, I do not respect. And by now, we have reached two of my biggest pains in the book. One of them is reasonable, and I think is as solid as a complaint as any from someone who's only read 30% of this book. The other one is shit and petty, but it is my truth. You, dear audience, are free to choose which is which. I don't like how Yara's handled Violet's disability. From the start, we know that Violet struggles with physical activities. She dislocates and breaks bones like it's no one's business. We were also told that Violet was training to be a scribe and only started training to be a dragon rider 6 months before the first test. I am going to phrase the next point rudely. Tell me, how the hell is this glass-boned nerd able to complete multiple physical tasks that people with years of training failed at? Now this is not a question, I am asking the book to tell me. I'm not saying we can't have a disabled icon in a book series. I just want the book to explore it a little bit. During the fight scenes, all I could think about was how Violet's fighting style is not influenced at all by her disability. Her fighting style is very much the way an able-bodied person would fight, with some creative freedoms, obviously. But she's not able-bodied. And I just kept thinking of Dead Sophism, an artist I really admire and who is dealing with chronic pain, that made this comic about how her knowledge of anatomy really improved because of how often she had to go to a doctor and how he helped her with her drawing. I was also thinking of 2009 Sherlock's fighting style, which centered around vital organs, observation, and knowledge of anatomy. I feel like it was a huge missed chance not to have Violet have an intimate knowledge of anatomy, given how often she had to go to a doctor to heal. She could have had this knowledge in her fighting style. The second thing is that during the day, it was only a day, I read this book, I had also been watching Dungeon Meshi. Not at the same time, I was just in the process of watching Dungeon Meshi. Now, for those who don't know, Dungeon Meshi is a fantasy anime with a premise of a group of adventurers who are trying to save the main character's sister from being digested by a dragon, and on the way they cook monsters because they have no money and no time. It is a masterpiece. I don't know what I can say with no spoilers, but it handles comedy, serious topics, and world building. Oh my god, the world building exceptionally well. Please watch it. You can thank me later. There is not a single character I have not fallen in love with, and there's themes about taking care of oneself. I've been watching Dungeon Meshi, and I don't think it was fair for Fourth Wing to compete for real estate in my brain next to Dungeon Meshi, because the world building in Fourth Wing was not what the kids call good. Why are the dragon people fighting the hippogriff people? Where did the dragons come from? What happened in the rebellion? How is the society structured? Questions I care about. Questions I don't think the story cares about, and which hurts me deeply. Anyway, Violet has some trials with the team. I think there's a kerfuffle because I remember being annoyed about the writing choices around Violet's fighting style again. And at this point, I had reached my self-appointed limit. The book had until 30% for me to find something, just one thing to hook me that I could cling onto for dear life while I finished the book, and I found nothing. I'm sorry, Fourth Wing, it's not you, it's me. It's a little you, actually. I do think some of my criticism is valid, but it's mostly me. So yeah, those were my thoughts. If anyone has read the book, did you like it? Do you agree with me, or do you have a completely different opinion? I would really like to know, especially on what happens later on, because I cannot go through this again. Touch grass, drink water, and I'll see you next time.